You know something? If you liberals go on getting your way, we're all going to hear one big loud flush. That's the sound of the USA going down the toilet.
Mr. Bunker, I want that vote of yours tomorrow. Now you tell me, how do I get it?
Can you handle a shotgun? Of course, that's the only way I know.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this is the Talamanca Review. Let me get my gear on so I can take some calls later on in the show. And we're just going to have fun, man, is what we're doing here. You know, I'm not going to get all serious about these podcasts, even though, you know, it's as serious as can be. It's life and death at this point, right? So, I don't know how else to get around that. Yeah, I just wanted to, you know, pop on and let me get my dock open so I can see the comments. Maybe take a few calls tonight, talk to some folks about what they think about what's going on in the world. All of these sorts of things. And, yeah, maybe come to some kind of deeper understanding of this magical mystery tour of 2024. But I find it amazing and beautiful that so many incredible things are coming out, and I don't really want to think about it within a context of right or wrong or anything like that. And what I mean by that, of course, is that this is all just us changing, is basically what it is. And there's nothing really to worry about here. This is not my ham-fisted version of we're going to 5D, but it's just a reminder that everything that's going on it's okay and it's necessary, and we're going to be a better and high warrior. And Bibi Ladesh from Canada. Hey man, hi both guys on a Saturday night, no less. But what do you got to do on a Saturday night, right? There's really nothing to do except podcast, really. I don't see any other options at this point. Okay, so let's get into it. I've got a bunch of stuff prepared, some of it funny, some of it not. Now, I guess, you know, I've reached a point where I suppose because of the time we live in, I have to take a side. Now, and that may apply to every circumstance in front of us right now. So I have to take a side politically. I have to take a side socially. Yeah, I have to take a side in life and death matters, I suppose, because it's all life and death now. I think we've reached that point where this is life and death, right? I don't think there's any way to kind of get around that. It's life and death at this point. People are dying. People are being arrested. People are having their lives destroyed in the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom has been sliding downhill for a while now. You know, they have zones around abortion clinics in the United States where you can't be there in any form of protest, even silent prayer. And the cops will come and say, "What are you doing here?" And they'll start asking you a bunch of questions, and they'll ask you if you're praying for the children or the unborn children. If you answer yes, you get arrested. It's illegal to silently pray in the UK. This is a few years old now, right? And again, you know, it's very difficult for me to take a side, because my spiritual perspective is that this is a free will space. Everybody has the right to do whatever they want to do. But just remember, stop all the sympathy and nonsense. Stop all the communism. There is a spiritual dimension to our fate and our fortune and how our life unfolds. We're not all born equal. I mean, that should be manifestly clear to you now. Some people are born handicapped. Some people are born with IQs of 145. Some people are born with IQs of 82, making life very difficult, but still high enough that they don't get any of the benefits of mental incapacity, like a Down syndrome pension or something like that. What happens to us in our lives is completely our fault. I bear witness to this. I wrote a book about it, The Devil in Us. You know, a memoir of you and me. I mean, I think if I were to take a side, my side is us. But us in higher consciousness. Because the us that's showing up now is just pathetic. Okay? I think I just lost my... Yeah, I did. I just lost my headset there. So the us that is showing up is just sort of... I gotta plug this in. The us that is showing up is just sort of pathetic. And this is what this process is about. It's about waking us up. But it has to happen in a relatively short period of time. Otherwise, we're not going to make the curve and we're going to be extinct. Okay? Which is not the end of the world. And we take many forms. Many of you who listen to me have probably had lives on other planets. Not just this one. We take many forms. Life is an ongoing process. It's an evolution of the internal aspect in relation to the material aspect. Don't ask me to explain all the finer intricacies of it or write a contract or a covenant for you, because I think those things are nonsensical. You just live it. You just live it and you figure it out yourself. Okay? Anyways. So the first clip I have to show you is an interview done outside and after in the hallways of a convention center after a Kamala Harris and Tim Walz convention. And I don't know if they're faking this with AI or not, but this is very interesting because nobody showed up for Biden, right? But Kamala Harris is filling up stadiums of 20,000 people. I've seen ads that are floating around on X, hiring people for $15 an hour to go to the rallies. That could be part of it, but even that, there shouldn't be 20,000 people there. If everyone's there for 2 hours, that's $30 a person. If there's 20,000 people there, $1, that's 600. Geez, that's about $600,000 they have to pay for all of those people who come. That's amazing. Is that 60 or 600? I need a calculator because I get by in life with grade 9 math skills. True story. 30 times, no, it's 600,000. 20. I'm so bad at math, it's unbelievable. Yeah, it's 600,000, $500,000. They got the money. Why not burn it? But look at the money they have to spend just to make her look good. But I want you to just look at this, okay? And we'll discuss it afterwards.
Hi, this is Tim.
It's Kamala Harris.
Sorry, wrong clip. Yeah, here we go.
Why are y'all voting for Kamala Harris?
I don't want to lose my rights. I'm a trans man and I'm gay and I have been pregnant and I've had an abortion before and I don't want to lose that. I'm afraid of not being able to be myself anymore because from what I've heard, Trump's America doesn't want me to look like this. So that's why I'm here today and that's why I'm voting blue.
What about you?
I've also been pregnant and had an abortion before. I was a minor and it would have been dangerous for me to properly, it would have been dangerous for me to carry a baby with personal reasons and everything. I also, I'm very,
Alternative.
alternative, and I feel like if Trump were to win, I wouldn't be able to, like express myself through my looks and everything, and wouldn't be able to have the piercings or the dyed hair or the tattoos that I want. You know, I would be able to be myself. And my dad's very pro-Trump, and I'm just very
Pro-Kamala.
pro-Kamala. Yeah, I don't, you know, it's
Does
just,
that cause a divide at all?
yeah, it definitely does. He thinks that Kamala's going to ruin the country, but I think that Trump would do worse, like a lot. Like, Kamala is going to be good for the country.
Hi, this is Tim.
It's Kamala Harris. Good morning, Governor.
Good morning, Madam Vice President.
Listen, you weren't my first choice. To be honest, you weren't even in my top 10. But no one else wants to run as my VP because they all know I'm going to lose. You are the only one who is willing to be my running mate.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically career suicide. But I did some dumb shit a few years back, and now I'm totally controlled by the deep state. And so they told me either I become your running mate or I get Epstein in a New York prison.
Now, the fact that we're both radical communists is a slight problem, but I got some instructions from Big Daddy Barack. Basically, we're going to pretend that you're a normal American white guy. There's a bunch of things you did that we got to run away from here. You passed a law requiring tampons in the boys' bathroom in schools. You basically cheered on the George Floyd rioters who burned down your cities. You implemented a snitch hotline during COVID. And Tim, you signed a law that allows the state to take custody of children if their parents refuse to let them transition. I mean, what the f***, Tim? We got a lot of cleanup to do here. But listen, we already got the mainstream media gaslighting America into thinking that you're super normal.
This is America's dad, America's football coach, and the teacher that's cool enough without trying to be cool.
A lot of people have noticed this sort of down-to-earth, likable quality to him.
Very moderate in Congress.
A moderate Democrat, a centrist, but a more centrist.
Kind of a centrist Midwesterner in persona.
That's pretty funny because I'm weird as f***.
Americans are dumb, Tim. They'll believe anything we tell them.
They are so dumb, right?
They think I'm black. Okay, so here's the plan. In order to hide your own weirdness, we want you to accuse Trump and J.D. Vance of being weird. Just say it over and over again.
Weird, 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 weird. And then they start being weird. They're weird, 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 weird. Donald Trump's weirdness. Very weird, weird. It's just too weird. It's weird, weird. Okay, so how far left are we admitting to being here? Like, are we openly woke?
We have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke. Yeah. No, we're flip-flopping on everything right now. We want to keep the voters confused. You know when your GPS suddenly starts rerouting inexplicably and you have no idea where you're going and you're afraid your GPS might just drive you off a cliff? We're exactly like that.
What do we say if reporters ask us about policy stuff?
Oh, we're not taking questions from reporters, Tim. We're not prepared for that. But if you do find yourself in a tricky spot with a reporter, just cackle.
Cackle.
Yeah, cackle.
You're considered the most liberal United States senator.
Somebody said that, and it actually was Mike Pence on the debate stage. But
Yeah. And is that a socialist or progressive perspective?
No. What do you want to know?
Wow, that's horrifying.
Exactly. It's horrifying, but distracting. Okay, so Tim, tell me, your radical left political views, are those real?
Oh, no, of course not. No, honestly, I will have whatever political views you pay me to have.
I love it, Tim. You're like the white male version of me.
You're right. No one voted for me either. Hey, Kamala, let's see what can be unburdened by what has been.
All right, buddy. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.
Hey, you ever notice that Harris Waltz sounds like Harry Balls?
I had not noticed that. Thank you for that. Bye, Tim.
Mr. Reagan. I'm Professor Senendiesnitz, and
You can't make that stuff up. Well, you can. Somebody did, but that's just priceless. You know, I have a lot of fun making fun of these people. I'm not going to deny that. I think you can see it. It's pretty clear. And the reason I have fun doing that is they're so idiotic. Now, if I were making fun of somebody who was stupid, that would be cruel. And I'm not a cruel person. But we're talking about somebody and a group of people in this instance, the Democratic Party, who are really stupid and seek to apply that stupidity to everybody under their dominion if they get into office. So you have every right to call it out. Let your Let your inner Viking out, okay? And don't feel ashamed, okay? These people have to be called out for what they are. Now, like I said, and like I've been saying, there isn't anything really that much better on the other side of the aisle either. I mean, I have never in my life seen what I would call slimmer pickings in leadership in the world than now. Oh, you know, but it could all be a kind of an optical illusion. You know, at 58 years old, I'm at the height of my socio-political perception. So what happens is, and that doesn't mean to say that I'm more socially politically tuned in than somebody who's 31 years old and has a PhD in political science. I mean, obviously you've spent, you know, anywhere from 7 to 9 years in post-secondary education studying the world and reading all the great sociological thinkers like Solzhenitsyn and Adam Smith and Karl Marx, and those materials should all be read. Okay, you shouldn't not read the Communist Manifesto because you don't like communism. You should read the Communist Manifesto so you fully understand why you don't like communism. Okay? But what I mean is, every decade you live, you see things, and there's like an emotional content to it. So it's like the layers of it, the rings of a tree. Okay, is how I would describe it. And when you get to be about 58, there's no cognitive dilapidation. So there's nothing like senility or anything like that. You can still think very quickly. I can still get enormous amounts of work done in very stressful timelines. Like I did the month and a bit I took off from podcasting. Had a huge bunch of work to clear out from in front of me. Like, I mean, in total, it was only about 8,000 words I wrote, but it's kind of writing where, like, every syllable matters. You have a limited number of words to make a case for a grant application, and you want your client to get the grant, right? So you go over this stuff like Japanese haiku. You know, I must go over these things like 10 times each, and then you got to put them all together. I'm not going to talk about work. Point is, at 58, I'm at the height of my ability as a public perception and as a commentator. And I'm going to enjoy it, even though I only have 400 or 500 listeners per podcast between Rumble, YouTube, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, and everything added up together. But like I said, I'm happy with that numbers. I have like a small school auditorium listening to me every day. And I mean, who wouldn't be happy with that, right? I'm happy with that. And I know from my comments and the interactions I have with people that it's a meaningful exchange. It's a meaningful cooperative exchange, the Talamanca Review. So I'm very happy about that. What I'm having trouble telling you folks now, who I assume are my friends, I mean, if you're listening to me, you must share some associative perception. You know, you must feel in alignment with at least a portion of what I'm saying. My interpretation of reality is resonating with you. And I want to keep the dialogue going. And I want to expand on it. And I want to keep our spirits up. And I want to acknowledge the darkness of this time. And also maintain levity. You know, because if you can't laugh, you're already dead, no matter how bad things are. Right? So you've always got to find the laughter in things. You know, some people might think this is a form of gallows humor or something like that, but no. You know? So what I'm having trouble doing is giving good, honest counsel, because I don't like either decision. My counsel is go do your own thing. You know, I don't even know why I talk about politics or The Devil in Us, A Memoir of You and Me. As I'm noticing on YouTube now, people who just do simple YouTube channels about building alternative construction off-grid and living in another culture and talking about how they get by and everything. I mean, a lot of these YouTube sites have over 500,000, 750,000 followers. Right? It's amazing how many people are interested in alternative ways of living. I found one. I found a beautiful one. Got out early. I was an early adopter, as they say. I hope all of you can do the same thing, but not everybody can. And because of that, I feel a little guilty talking about it. I do. Because I know there's those of you listening to me who've got 2 kids under 10. You don't know how to navigate leaving the American or the Canadian education system, the health system. It's not just yourself you're worried about. You know, you're not like, I'll get my circumstances. It's all explained in The Devil and Us in the first part, but I'll just briefly go over it. I waited till my son was done high school, and then I said, let's get out of here. Let's go buy some land and build a house in Costa Rica. And he said, sure, and we did. And you know, it was an extraordinary experience. And the key thing there is I had to wait for my son to finish high school because I wanted him to be a part of this. I didn't want him to feel as though I had left him behind or anything like that. Right? So I get the family connections and everything. When I first told my mother my plan, she subsequently habitually referred to it as gallivanting off to Costa Rica in a very, very negative and sarcastic tone. But that's just my mother. She's a cross between a sadistic Catholic nun and Nurse Ratched from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. She's just a very, very dark person. Darkness has been my main life, folks. But I'm a light person, and I have light inside me. And it's my understanding of the darkness that provides the wisdom, because all the information's in the wisdom. Or sorry, all the information's in the darkness. All the wisdom is in the darkness. That doesn't mean I'm advocating you go look for darkness, but if you're living an incarnation where you're meant to gain wisdom, you will experience darkness, because it's impossible to gain wisdom and insight without encountering darkness, both in the world, like economic hitmen and, you know, Perkins, that kind of darkness, Machiavellian socio-political darkness. And then if you can handle all that and you're still curious, then you go behind the curtain of the life veil and you look at the other side, or investigate it through people who can. And then you start to see what's going on the other side. And then you start to make the connections between the agents, meaning because everything that happens here has to be done by an incarnate human being. So if some fucking moron tells you sometime that the earth is run by extraterrestrials and the inner earth, or something like this, okay, or the archons control us, no, they're not. Okay? And this is why so many people have trouble with conspiracy theory. Are they part of the architecture of control? Do they interact with, inspire, and give knowledge to the human beings and human generational associations that they've shared power with and shared their ambitions for this planet with? Absolutely, that's all going on. But it can't go on without the boots on the ground. So always remember that as a general rule. Never blame anything invisible for what's happening. Oh, the devil did it. Oh, God gave me this, or whatever. You can say God gave you something, or, you know, something like that. But I'm talking here about, you know, the way societies move. Not your individual fate line and your individual lifeline as something completely different. And we all engage the negative and positive principalities in the cosmology at different stages of our life. You're going to engage the negative and the positive principalities. Okay? That's just if you want to live a full life. Okay? So it's the human agents that are doing this. So you're not telling anybody what's going on the earth if you say something like the inner earth and extraterrestrials. You know, John Edmonds said that as well. He said, he referred to the planet as a hothouse. You know, he means the greenhouse. We're just a place, and the stuff grown here, it's a genetic farm for other races. You know, and I heard the same thing, a version of the same thing from Bob, and a version of the same thing from AB, the galactic historian. But it doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to be that way. The only reason it's that way is we're so spiritually weak and we're so vulnerable and we're so susceptible to the whispers in our head, because consciousness, our vibration, the mineral level in our body based on our minerally dilapidated diet, there's so many things working against us. And when you add them all together, then you start to come in with, you know, a thesis like the devil in us, that like there's no way this could all be an accident. You know, no way it could all be an accident. And nor could you blame it all on greed or anything else, okay? This is a plan. Right? That's one thing that the Talamanca Review, hey, where is that, by the way? The Talamanca Review. Where is my image? Huh. Well, that's interesting. Where the heck did my header go? That is so weird. Yeah. All right, well, it's the Talamanca Review, even though the top banner isn't up. That is so weird. 1, 2, 3. There it is. Why can't I see it? What happened to it? Well, there it is. Oh, I know why. There we go. It fell underneath my video capture. Oh, this OBS, folks. I'm still learning it as I go along. Okay. So, you know, here we are laughing our heads off at the left, okay? But what happens when consciousness dilapidates is you run out of options, because I've said this before. God, or what we would call the Creator, as that essence, as that creative essence, not an individual, but as that creative essence, that all-encompassing energy, the unity, the wholeness, the oneness of the Creator. As that energy interacts with us, its primary currency, if there's an exchange with human beings, the only currency or the only thing God spends or gives us to spend is opportunity. God doesn't work in gold. God doesn't work in silver. God doesn't work in fiat notes. The only currency God had is opportunity. Okay, so it's very important to remember that. And what happens when you become spiritually dilapidated is you run out of opportunities. All right, so if you have a relationship with God, you're going to know that, because opportunity will continue to come into your life. And opportunity leaves a lot of people. Okay? The moment you get into magic, white or black, the opportunity currency of the Creator goes away until you give up that practice. White or black magic. Now, you may be able to bring more opportunities into your life with the magic, but those opportunities don't come in clean. They all have connective tissue to them that are going to set off karmic triggers in your life, because they've been magically brought in, not divinely given to you. Magic is horrible. Horrible. Now, I've decided that to be a fair podcaster, I have to be fair to both sides. Now, remember, I'm 51% Trump, 49% Kamala. I mean, I don't think really either one of them is fit for office, to be honest with you. And I think both of them represent a form of destruction for the United States. I think Kamala Harris and the woke mob represent destruction of the United States by communist indoctrination. And I think Trump represents destruction of the United States in the West by subservience to Jerusalem. So there's no way out. So what I'm saying is there's no opportunity. There's no right decision to make. You're doomed either way. Now, I've been thinking about this a fair bit lately. And I thought to myself, maybe I'm being too hard on Trump. Maybe I've just been swayed too much by the fact that his daughter, Ivanka, converted to not only Judaism, but again, I got to keep repeating this, probably the most batshit cult, Orthodox cult within Judaism, which is Chabad Lubavitch, which is a Kabbalah school, okay, started in about 1880 in Lithuania, okay, and spread from there. Its center now is Brooklyn. Remember the dirty mattresses and the underground tunnels in Brooklyn? Remember that news story? That was Chabad Lubavitch. American chapter, the Brooklyn chapter. But those Brooklyn Jews are a powerful force. Don't kid yourself, right? It's not all the power in the Jewish community is vested in Israel. A lot of it is still abroad, and both monetarily and religiously. So, could Trump bring balance to the Jewish situation? Could he? I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hard on him. The only thing I know for sure is I've seen what the Dems are going to do because they've been doing it for 3 years. And I compare it to 2016 to 2020, and though we're economically and in every way, those were 4 much better years to be a North American, and specifically to be a citizen of the United States of America. And there's a number of very practical reasons for that. Trump is not constrained by the woke pretense of climate change. Okay? It doesn't matter. Look, folks, let me be honest with you here. Forget about debating about whether climate change exists or not. It doesn't matter at this point whether it exists or not, because India, China, the Middle East, Africa, Central America, South America, nobody gives a shit. They're not curtailing their industries in any way, shape, or form. Costa Rica does. Costa Rica is the only United Nations member country with a carbon neutral footprint. I think, I'm not sure if they're still the only one, but they were the first one. So that kind of means something to them. And they've done a lot of conservation here. You know, they brought back all their forests and everything after they overlogged and stuff like that. But nobody gives a shit. And if China doesn't give a shit, and Africa doesn't give a shit, and the Middle East doesn't give a shit, how is the economy of Canada, the United States, Australia, and the United Kingdom and New Zealand bowing down to climate change and not extracting fossil fuels or processing fossil fuels anymore? How is that going to change anything? It isn't. So nobody gives a shit about climate change. You should be able, that one should be a no-brainer, okay? If it were a crime to mislead people with false information on public postings, you know, the way they're arresting Brits now, okay? Although I don't think it's false information they're posting, but it's against the law as it stands in Britain right now. And as a general rule, I wouldn't break the law unless you absolutely have to. Am I getting a coffee here? Muchas gracias, mi amor. I was not expecting that. Rosemary wasn't home when I started this podcast. I definitely think Greta Thunberg should be arrested. I mean, she's got to be one of the biggest psychic terrorists out there. You have stolen my childhood! Fucking monstrous little creature, raised by a couple of Illuminati hangers-on. Just complete and total shitheels, okay? That to make their child do something like that, I mean, that's got to be one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen in my life. So maybe Trump is going to put Israel in their place. Now, you know, if you followed any of that, like QAnon stuff, and I don't know what to make of that. Okay? It definitely seems like that was some kind of an operation. Whose it is, I don't know. I don't think it was in any way, shape, or form connected to the Trump team. He referenced it a few times, but, you know, just because it was all about him, right? But in the threads of those dispatches from QAnon, there was this one idea that as the deep state was cleaned up, Israel was going to be saved for last. Okay? And it's interesting as you watch public commentators who've never said anything about the Jews before, Alex Jones in particular. I don't watch him often. I just find, you know, like I've already admitted on air that I have a tremendous affection for America as a spiritual entity and what it did as a nation. But because I've been so candid about my love for the United States, I can also tell you there are times I'm glad I'm not an American, because you guys can be extremely embarrassing people. And Alex Jones is an example of that. Not that I'm all Canadian, Commonwealth, you know, curtsying to the Queen or the King or anything like that, proper manners and all that. It's just more that Alex Jones just seems to be the epitome of the American loudmouth, which is, by the way, the sort of negative side of how people outside the United States see Americans. Is very brash, perhaps overconfident, and basically salesman, right? Now, I mean, no country in the history of countries has more further defined the market than the United States of America. The modern global market is an American invention. And there's things that are sold now that just should not be sold, right? But if money can be made at it, they're going to make money at it, right? That's all there is to it. So, yeah. I just got a text message from my buddy Nelson, the Buddhist. He's back in Southeast Asia. I think South Korea had a monastery. He gets little breaks and they give him his cell phone back, and I get a text message. The rest of the time he's just meditating and living in silence. I have a lot of spiritual friends now, and it makes me feel good. You know, I'm a layperson, a writer, a public figure. Hey man, I get 300 to 400 to 500 listeners a day. I'm a public figure. But even Alex Jones is saying now that, look folks, there's no other way to say this. You got good Jews and you got bad Jews. So something is going on with the Jews. They're not going to get away with this either. So if that's correct, even though Donald Trump has a Chabad son-in-law and a Chabad daughter now and Chabad grandchildren now, I don't think he's down with this whole Jewish supremacy thing to the degree that they take it religiously. I'm absolutely positive that Donald Trump is a person who rewards and admires confident and exuberant egos. He is one himself. So like I said, I'm like 51% Trump. And if I were American, I would vote for Trump. You know? Or if I had the inclination and somebody fronted me 10 grand, I'd get on a plane and drop off in Mexico just at the border, cross, and vote. As an illegal immigrant. Where are you coming from, sir? Nicaragua. And I could have all the artifacts to prove it. I'm from Nicaragua. But let's take a look at some of the disturbing stuff that's coming out about Trump. And it's mounting up, folks. This guy's no saint. Okay? Remember, I endorse him only because of the opposition. And we know what they want to do. He's sort of unknown. We know he likes Israel. We know that he gave them the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. We know that he said that they should have control of the Golan Heights, which no other American president before him had said. We know that the Jews love him. Okay? But in the end, we can hope that he does the right thing, But it's a gamble, because nobody, and I mean nobody, knows completely except the inner circle what these crazy Jews are up to. They're getting crazier by the day now, and everybody's tuning into this topic now. When you talked about Jewish financial, cultural, and political influence in the world 6-7 years ago, you were on needles and pins, and you would get comments from people, they didn't like it. But now it's everybody's talk. Everybody's coming around to the same thing now. Santo sent me the latest podcast from the Dollar Vigilante, and he's finally clued in. And it's funny the way he did the video. He said, I never looked into this. And until I looked into it, I thought this white supremacy thing was exactly what they're telling us it is. And then he tells you what he found out looking into it. And it's amazing how everybody's converging on this. And so consciousness of the problem is the first step in finding the solution, because then you can ask for the solution. You can ask the creative other, God, and say, this is my problem. There's this group of people on the planet that think they have the right to run us all, and they've been chosen by the Creator, and I don't know what to do about this. And Spirit or God will give you the answer. And we as a whole human race have to ask that question. So the more light the Jews put on this topic, the more they're doing for us, actually. Right? Which brings up another topic. They're making a lot of mistakes now. So this is a multi-dimensional game, and I understand it. The energies and like what you do with certain energies, how much time, energy, and resource do you put into maintaining or denying something people are accusing you of doing. And now what's going on is the Jewish world is just being completely exposed. Whether it's Chabad Lubavitch in Brooklyn with the underground tunnels and the diabolically stained mattresses, the rumors of rampant pedophilia with the boys in that cult, and then what's going on in Israel. I mean, the rape camps. And again, I haven't spoken about this because some things, believe it or not, even though I talk about black magic and a lot of dark stuff, some stuff I just find too distasteful to talk about. But there's this thing going on in Israel where they're raping the male prisoners. And the first logical question any outsider would have is, why do they have so many homosexual rapists in the Israeli military? Okay, so let me explain this to you. Most of us, men, okay, if a woman was suffering, a heterosexual man, if a woman was suffering in front of us, we would not see that as a sexual opportunity. Suffering and vulnerable in front of us and expressing negative emotions like crying or hiding their face or something, for the vast majority of men, at least in the Western world, that would not be sexually enticing. That would not be stimulating. The blood would not go to our penis. Okay? Now, for a heterosexual male, times that by 10 or 100 for getting an erection over the suffering and abuse of a male. And so the question becomes, where are the soldiers who can get a hard-on to do this? How do you get a hard-on to rape a man behind a bunch of shield? So they're kind of just showing us who they are now, which again is a huge error. There's a lot of errors going on now. Okay. Anyways, I've I've sweet talked this thing leading up to Trump enough. Let's get into it, okay?
Shooters before they can commit a
No
crime.
way.
So it was overtly calling for pre-crime. At the same time, Bill Barr legalized pre-crime by creating a Department of Justice program called DEEP that actually has arrested people for Facebook posts.
No, DEEP, deep.
It's called, yes. It's a real program, and
So-
it's still on the books.
so Bill
and
Barr-
at the same time, he was trying to eliminate encryption also, or at least get a government backdoor into devices that use encryption. And then shortly thereafter, Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, along with a close friend of Trump, who's the former head of NBC Universal, Bob Wright, were trying to get Trump to create a new agency called HARPA, a health DARPA. And the first program of that they pitched was called Safe Homes, which is an acronym for something else. And what they wanted to do there was data mine American social media accounts, as well as extract information from Amazon Echoes, Google Home, Fitbits, and Apple Watches, and run it
Jesus.
through AI to identify if you've been saying something that shows early signs of neuropsychiatric violence, and then based on that determine if you need to go to a court-ordered physician visit, if you need to be put under house arrest or anything, or put in preventative detention. So this is something that they were talking about back then. And even though Trump allegedly loved the idea, he didn't make HARPA. But you know who made HARPA? Joe Biden did. He called it ARPA-H, just moved the H to the end, but it's the same program, the same people. Are behind it. So this is a bipartisan agenda to try and use our online activity against us. And there needs to be awareness about it, because it's really the only way we can stop it. They have our data. They've had our data, and they've been profiling us with Palantir. They couldn't do it without Palantir. And something needs to be said and something needs to be done. And the fact that there's so many Trump supporters backing this, when they're likely, make up the bulk of the list, people that own guns and care about the Constitution and all this stuff, are going to be the people that the federal government doesn't like. And if you look at the Biden administration's framework for the war on domestic terror, which has been developed by every administration in the post 9/11 era, they make it very clear that domestic terrorists, their definition of it includes people on the left and the right, people that oppose all forms of capitalism. That includes the left's favored stakeholder capitalism, or crony capitalism, anything in that, people that are extreme environmentalists, people that oppose perceived government overreach. All of this is considered enough to get you to be considered a threat by the federal government. And this is a national security state apparatus out of control. And I would argue that, with Trump and J.D. Vance, they are trying to sell themselves as anti-establishment, potentially libertarian and populist. And that is not what these companies are. The fact that Trump is taking money from Palantir and Palantir co-founders, whether it's Peter Thiel or Joe Lonsdale, is very alarming. And their potential influence on the vice presidential pick is also very alarming. Because if people care about reigning in the surveillance state or stopping the war on domestic terror, they should be outraged by this, because ultimately what these campaigns are is a way to stifle dissent. And that's what they've been from the very beginning. When you look back at their, how it started, during the Iran-Contra era, very alarming stuff. And so I think the more people know about this, the more we can do, to stop it.
You know something? If you liberals go on getting your way, we're all going to hear one big loud flush. That's the sound of the USA going down a toilet.
Mr. Bunker, I want that vote of yours tomorrow. Now you tell me, how do I get it?
Can you handle a shotgun? Of course, that's the only way I know.
You can't make this stuff up. So Trump is not a populist. Okay, let's dispel that myth right away. And if the quality of the Democratic Party were not so despicable right now, if they got their head out of this woke nonsense, eased a little bit back on the climate change, stimulated the economy, made a firm commitment to sustain or maintain what we call a middle class in the United States, they would look better than Trump right now. In any decade before 2010, Trump wouldn't have stood a chance compared to any of the candidates, whether it be Obama, George Bush Jr., or Bill Clinton. Okay, he just wouldn't. But it's it's a testament to the quality or lack of quality in our time that I'm even doing a podcast saying that I think that a guy like Donald Trump is the best guy to vote for. And I do. But only because of who he's running against. In any other time, in a normal time, I would not like this guy. And to be quite honest with you, I don't like him. You know, I wouldn't go to a Trump rally. I'd shake his hand and talk to him. I think he's taken a lot of risks. And I think he is standing in the middle of the road as this woke convoy is coming down the road, and he's trying to stop it. And woke is communism, and I don't like communism. So I'm happy he's there and everything. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, not a great guy, you know? Trophy wife shopper at beauty contests, serial infidelity, you know, banging a porn star right after his son is born or while Melania is pregnant with Barron. You know, not a great guy. You know, his business dealings in New York, all of the small contractors he bankrupted by not paying, knowing that he was morally and legally in the wrong, but they didn't have the time, money, or resources to sue him in the New York court system. Trump is a fucking cunt. Okay? Let's be very clear about that. But right now, because of the greater evil in the world, he's our fucking cunt. And you know what? We need a fucking cunt right now. Sometimes you need the knee breakers. Be honest with yourself. Stop living in ideal land. Okay? So I say we deal with it. We vote him in. And whatever is going on with Chabad and the rabbis, let's see how it plays out. And because there's no other option. We already know how the left is going to play out. Do I resent the fact that we've been bottled into this limited decision through the forcing of the economic factors that are forcing us to think this way, which are coming from big money? Big money is like Vanguard, BlackRock, the trillionaires, you know, all Jewish, by the way. You know, I don't like that we've been forced into this decision. And I've been very clear about what I think it is. The two choices are the synagogue or the gulag, where the gulag is the radical communism and the woke, and the synagogue is rule from Jerusalem under Noahide law and live as a second-class Gentile under our Jewish superiors. You know? I mean, it's hard to believe that I'm even saying this out loud in 2024. It's hard to believe we're the same species that invented the automobile, the telephone, the computer. It's mind-boggling that the level of thought in our culture is at this level in 2024. Everything has evolved in our world technologically and materially, and our consciousness, our ability to perceive, think, and be whole, and specifically the spiritual aspects of our consciousness, have been completely vaporized. You know? And religious is not spiritual. Right? It's not spiritual. I got one other thing for you to take a look at here today. Then maybe, I think my headset's charged up there. Maybe we could take some calls. Listen to this Chinese lady at a Democratic convention.
In just a few seconds.
Actually, I am a Chinese immigrant who survived communism. And under Mao, 40 million people were starving to death after he sold communism to them. And 20 million people died, murdered during his Cultural Revolution. So my question to you, David, is that can you guarantee me, a gun owner tonight, our government in the U.S., in D.C., will never become a tyrannical government? Can you guarantee that to me?
There's no way I can ever guarantee that any government will not be tyrannical.
Well, then the debate on gun control is over because I will never give up my guns. Never. And you should go to China to see how gun control works for dictatorship of CCP.
This one.
Isn't that amazing? I don't think it really matters if we're armed anymore. I mean, if governments wanted to blow us out of the water, they could do it. They got the drones, they got the technology, they got everything. I advocate leaving, and it's amazing how many people are saying this out loud. You know, Michael Yon, that's his only, he said, look, the fight's over. The spirit to fight doesn't exist. Ireland's gone. And he just goes through all the countries he's been to. And he advocates leaving. Okay? The way they've structured these battles, it seems as though they're going to collapse all of these societies and civilizations. You know, whether they succeed or not, I don't know. But I don't want to say Michael Yon is right, but I don't see much of a fight being put up. Now, you don't want to go out and do anything, you know, reactive. But there's a number of active things you could begin doing, right? Begin withholding your taxes until the last moment. Everything you can do from the perspective of paperwork to stymie this government, do it. Why would you pay a government that wants to kill you? And I'm speaking to black people too. If you think this is only white people they're targeting, you're crazy. What they don't like is the American consciousness, the consciousness of liberty and entitlement. That's what they're trying to kill. So even if you're Latino and you're third generation, your grandparents came over in 1922 and moved into LA and your family started there, and then, you know, they had 5 kids, and your parents and your aunts and uncles moved out to different parts of the United States, and you're completely assimilated Mexican Americans now, born and raised in the English language school system. You're on the list too. It's the mentality they don't want to exist anymore. The culture of freedom, specifically the freedom and independence sponsored by Christian societies. It's vulgar to them. And why wouldn't it be? Because they have to live under so many rules, whether it's the rules of the Hadith and the Quran, or the 613 rules of the Talmudic demons. Doesn't matter. They don't think human beings should be allowed to live free. And they're jealous, right? So anybody wants to call in, now would be the time, 864-810-1039, seen that Tinker 1. Otherwise, we'll be winding it up pretty soon. I want to take another look at the Harris Rally girls. Now really pay attention to this, okay? And listen to why they're voting for this woman.
Why are y'all voting for Kamala Harris?
I don't want to lose my rights. Like, I'm a trans man and I'm gay and I have been pregnant and I've had an abortion before, and I don't want to lose that. I'm afraid of not being able to be myself anymore because from what I've heard, Trump's America doesn't want me to look like this. So that's why I'm here today, and that's why I'm voting blue.
What about you?
I've also been pregnant and had an abortion before. I was a minor, and it would have been dangerous for me to it would have been dangerous for me to carry a baby with, like, personal reasons and everything. I also, I'm very, alternative, and I feel like if Trump were to win, I wouldn't be able to express myself through my looks and everything, and wouldn't be able to have the piercings or the dyed hair or the tattoos that I want. I would be able to be myself, and my dad's very pro-Trump, and I'm just very
pro-Kamala.
Pro-Kamala, yeah. I don't, it's just...
Does that cause a divide at all?
Yeah, it definitely does. He thinks that Kamala's going to ruin the country, but I think that Trump would do worse, a lot. Kamala is going to be good for the country.
Unbelievable. They're voting for Harris because they don't believe Trump will allow them to dress the way they dress and express themselves the way they express themselves. Now, I mean, I understand people don't like Trump, but I do not understand how people could give an answer to a question like that. I mean, the economy is falling apart. Their generation can't buy homes. There's absolutely no consciousness of self or community. There's none whatsoever. They're like non-playing characters. They don't exist. It's like those spoof interviews you see on Huntington Beach in various parts of California, where these guys have these successful YouTube channels where they just stop people and ask them the simplest of questions, like, what's the capital of the United Kingdom? And they don't know. What is Like, it's just unbelievable how stupid people are now. And how did we become so stupid? And if a society can produce people as stupid as and they may get smart. I don't mean to be cruel. I don't mean to be hard on them. You know, they took the time. They answered the guy's question. They were polite and everything. I get that. But at the same time, oh my God. Like, how could you possibly be that shallow? How could you be that stupid in 2024? And this is another one of the great ironies in the world. There's never been more information in the world, and people have never been stupider. You can get almost any question answered now with 15 minutes research with the World Wide Web. Almost any question. Okay? Any curiosity you have, you can look into. And there's some that have really taken off, like ancient religion, the Hellenistic period, like Amon Hillman there, the guy who said Christ was a pedophile. Very interesting to take a look at his work. Of course, Christ wasn't a pedophile. It's ridiculous. But it's very interesting to take a look at his work and to listen to him. You know, don't bar people out because you don't agree with them. That's not going to be a successful intellectual life. Just don't do it. So, anyways, hi Linda. Yeah. And but like I said, yeah, it's absolutely amazing to me that people could be that far out of the loop and that far gone, you know? But why would Trump and his administration be causing, why was Vance chosen as the VP? You know, this Peter Thiel guy is not a good guy. He goes back quite a way with Elon Musk. They started PayPal together. By the way, that's where Elon made most of his money, was PayPal, which is a kind of greasy online pseudo banking service, right? Obviously for people who don't want to use banks, because everything you can do with PayPal, you can do with a bank, you know. So that's not so good either. And there's all this technology looking to be unloosed now on the United States and Canada and all these countries that is just going to bring a level of policing to our lives that is very similar to what's going on in the UK right now. Right? Anyways, I think that's about it for tonight. I don't think anyone's going to call in. Well, let me answer Santo's question just before I leave. Santo asks, if it is that broken, why do we give the system any attention? Why even vote? Because you have to live in that system. I don't have to give it any attention. I'm giving it attention for the future of the human race and the future of Western civilization, which I'm somewhat attached to be honest. But at a literal level, I don't have to give it any more consideration. I've moved to Central America. I'm in a very safe country nobody wants to attack. Their economy is booming now. The Costa Rica colony has gained like 30% against the US dollar and the Canadian dollar in the last 2 years. 30%. Right? That means that something that used to cost $1,000 at the grocery store now costs like $1,300 or more. It's really quite something, actually. But I'm still happy with everything. I'm doing okay. I don't need a lot of money. I don't care that much about money. I care about my health, I care about my family, and I care about the state of my consciousness. You know, aside from podcasting, writing books, and maintaining a part-time job, or somewhere between full-time and part-time with my technical writing, aside from that, I basically live the life of a monk. I just meditate. Yeah. All right then, man. You crazy cats have a great night, okay? And thanks for tuning in once again. And we'll see you again tomorrow for another podcast. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this has been